Welcome everybody to another edition of our GoDaddy Pro Meetup. This week, we are kicking off an entirely new series all about getting ready for the holidays. These are going to be e-commerce focused. We've got 5 for you. So today we're kicking everything off with an introduction. And then the next 4 weeks are going to cover everything from payments and security to analytics and just other marketing tools that you need. These are geared for you to be doing work for other people, but also this information is totally applicable if you are running your own e-commerce site. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Marcus. He is our resident WooCommerce expert, and I'm going to let him take it away, and then I'll come back on for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A section of the chat, and I look forward to seeing what everybody learned today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. I'm going to start by apologizing for my voice ahead of time. Oh. Still not working?
Nope. Oh, some people can hear you. I can't hear you. Okay.
How's
okay, people can hear you. Go right ahead.
All right. Just let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. I apologize ahead of time. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, so we'll probably take it a little bit slow. But yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me today to talk about e-commerce store holiday shopping essentials. We're going to talk about hosting, payments, shipping, and some WooCommerce extensions to thrive this holiday season. To get started, welcome. My name is Marcus Burnette. I'm a WooCommerce specialist at GoDaddy Pro. And Joanna can't hear me. If you can't hear me, well, refreshing sometimes works. So give me 1 second here. I'm a WooCommerce specialist at GoDaddy Pro. I came over with the Skyverge team, who was specialized, built over 60 plugins for WooCommerce. So I have a lot of experience with WooCommerce. And before that, I worked for an agency in Central Florida where we built websites for small and medium-sized businesses. And a lot of that was using WordPress and WooCommerce. So long history there. Let's dive into holiday readiness. I will note here just real quick, this is being recorded and we'll share it later. And also don't forget to leave your questions in the Q&A area. It's in the chat there. If you just look at the top of the chat, it says general and Q&A. Just hop over to the Q&A there and leave any questions along the way. I'm also going to keep an eye on the chat, so if anything comes up in there that makes sense for me to address at the time, I'll do so. But if you have any questions for the Q&A later, just go ahead and leave those there. First, what does holiday readiness even mean? When I talk about holiday readiness or the holiday season, mostly talking about the Big 5 weekend in the US, and that would be Thanksgiving Thursday and Black Friday, and then through the weekend to Cyber Monday. This year it happens to be November 25th to the 29th. Sales during this weekend last year amounted to about 39 billion, which is up from 28.4 billion in 2019. Some of that does have to do with the pandemic, of course, but you'll see in just a second that has just increased year over year anyways. E-commerce spending went up about 15% for Cyber Monday alone last year. And if you can see on the slides there, I have sort of a chart of the last 4 or 5 years, 5 years, I guess it is, and just the growth just on Cyber Monday alone, not even the entire weekend. It's just gone up each year. So just 5 years ago, it was just under 3.5 billion, and last year it was almost 11 billion in sales. So it's just continued decline regardless of the pandemic or anything else. And then Being out of stock during Black Friday shopping week in 2019, so 2 years ago, cost retailers an estimated 484 million in sales not realized. So we definitely want to make sure that that you're ready to go this holiday season. So you're not one of those in the camp of just not being able to take advantage of the opportunity there for that Big 5 weekend. So here's our checklist. We'll go through each one of these in the following slides, but just to kind of give an overview of where we're going here. Our checklist starts with selecting a hosting package that is optimized for WooCommerce, then installing WooCommerce and configuring your store details. You'll want to then install a WooCommerce compatible theme and activate it. Also add a payment method to accept payments. That one seems obvious, but does get skipped or overlooked until the last minute. Installing an SSL certificate and forcing HTTPS, we'll go over what that means. Make sure shipping options are available and configured. That's important if you're selling physical goods. Preparing a sales tax handling plugin. Taxes are also one of those things that you don't want to miss out on, especially on such a high volume time of the year. Installing a security plugin for your WordPress site. Installing Google Analytics so that you can keep track of your traffic. Ensuring email marketing campaigns are planned. Replenishing and updating your online. Some other marketing plugins, we'll talk about a few of them that I picked out specifically, and setting up a caching plugin to help with performance. And I have a couple links here at the bottom of those lists. It's kind of small, but the idea is that I've highlighted these other four. As Sandy mentioned, we're going to have a deep dive into each of these other four topics in the coming weeks. So please do make sure that you head over to either godaddy.com/pro/holiday readiness or events.godaddy.com, which Sandy added to the chat. Thank you, Sandy, to make sure that you register for those as we are going to continue the deep dive on those in the coming weeks. All right. So let's start with selecting a hosting package for WooCommerce stores. To have a WooCommerce store online, you need a place to host files in the database. That's kind of the bare minimum. So things that you want to look for when selecting a hosting package, finding a hosting plan that's optimized for WooCommerce stores. There are lots of hosting companies now have created plans specifically for WordPress and specifically for WooCommerce that just to take advantage of knowing how WordPress and WooCommerce run. They've made sure that the server settings are optimized for running WooCommerce sites and handling traffic and all that comes with uploading products and handling inventory and all of that. You want to look for one that includes a free SSL certificate. Most include that, and we'll get into SSL certificates in just a few minutes. Look for a hosting plan that includes a content delivery network or a CDN. And what that does essentially is it distributes the assets, the images, and that sort of thing on your site geographically to different places around the world. So you wouldn't think that necessarily physical distance makes a difference from your store since it's all online. But let's say you're in the US and someone in Europe is looking at your site. If those images are being served up from servers in Europe, then they're going to be served up much faster than if they had to be relayed all the way from the US, and vice versa, or anywhere else in the world. So what a content delivery network does is it takes all of your images and it makes a copy of those across different servers around the world. And that way, when someone is looking at your store, they're getting images and other assets, scripts, and all of that from the closest location to them, which is just going to make it load that much faster. The other things to look for that are kind of optional, but I added them here, is looking to see which WooCommerce plans also include some of the plugins that you might need. If you need to run a membership site or have folks come to your store to pick things up in person after ordering them online, some of those plugins for WooCommerce can also cost extra. So if you find a hosting package that includes some of those plugins for free already, then that might be worth doing the estimate to see financially whether that's going to be beneficial for you. And then also a free domain name. This is of course going to depend on whether you have a domain already or not. If you don't have a domain name, then of course having a free domain name included is helpful. If you already have one, then that might not matter to you as much. All right, after you have a host, you're going to need to install WooCommerce and configure the details. You're going to want accurate store details, especially when it comes to shipping and taxes, but there are a number of other reasons. And there are other settings within WooCommerce that you're going to want to make sure that you take a look at. So things to look for here: is your store information correct? On the right-hand side here, you'll see one of the parts of the WooCommerce setup wizard that walks you through. There are a handful of questions that ask you. One of them, of course, is your store's address information. So want to make sure that your address information is up to date. It's set. If you skipped the wizard, the setup wizard in WooCommerce, I believe it defaults to like a UK address. So if you're not in the UK, then of course you're going to want to make sure that that's updated. Are you using the correct currency? Again, I think by default it's pounds because of that UK setup. So you're going to want to make sure that you have the correct currency set up in there, so that you're selling things, with the correct values. And then have you enabled guest checkout? This is going to be a personal preference. I personally like at least giving the option of having a guest checkout. So what that does is just allows your customers to make a purchase at your store without first having to set up an account or create an account along the way. It's always nice I personally like creating accounts at stores because then you get to see your purchase history and can go back and look at receipts and all that. But sometimes allowing guest checkout just streamlines the checkout process and is one less barrier to a customer making a purchase. So I think enabling guest checkout so that that's at least an option is the way to go. You want to make sure that you have a WooCommerce compatible theme installed. Choosing the right theme will allow your customers to find and purchase your products quickly. What you want to look for here, specifically compatible with WooCommerce, finding a theme that is tailored to showcasing your products, having a really streamlined cart checkout process. Some of those things can be done with plugins, and some of them can be done specifically through theming. So definitely make sure there's an image on the right hand side here. It's a little hard to see, but a lot of the places where you can find themes will allow you to filter and just choose e-commerce or WooCommerce specific themes. So I would recommend doing that so that you have a theme that's been tailored to working with WooCommerce sites. Also want to make sure that it's mobile friendly. I think it's over 50% or so of all site traffic now is on a mobile device, and I think I saw somewhere that last holiday season, last Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it was something like 62% of all e-commerce purchases were made on a mobile device. So you definitely want to make sure that your theme is also mobile friendly, in addition to being WooCommerce compatible. Just to make sure that if folks are trying to pay for things on their mobile device, that the whole checkout flow is streamlined, it looks nice, it's easy to navigate, finding products is easy, and all of that on a mobile device. So that's definitely something to make sure that you do, that you look for. And then also more recently, making sure that it works with full site editing, which is the block editor, or your page builder of choice as well. So if you are just using WordPress out of the box, then making sure that the theme is compatible with blocks and looks good and works well with the block system. Or if you're using something like Divi or Elementor or Beaver Builder or one of the other page builders, that the theme plays nicely with that as well. All right, then, like I mentioned at the intro slide, that the checklist there, making sure that you have a payment method, and not just a payment method, but a payment method that works for the customers that will come to your site. Adding a payment method allows you to accept major credit cards, e-checks, and more with a number of different payment gateways, payment services. Why they're useful, of course, without a payment option, customer can't pay online. And that may be what you're looking for. You may be looking to have an order placed at the store or at the website, and then come to the store and complete the sale there. And that's certainly a possibility as well with WooCommerce. But if you want customers to go ahead and make the payment online, then you certainly need to make sure that you have a payment method available there. Yeah, can lose 6% of customers due to missing payment options that work for them. It's the that work for them that's really the key there. Just having a payment option is not necessarily good enough. Some people prefer to pay online with a credit card, and then some people prefer to pay online with something like PayPal, where they're not entering in their credit card details. Or, for instance, PayPal is one of those that also works very well across international different countries internationally. So offering something like that might be the way to go too. And then I don't have any of them listed here, but there are also others like Affirm or Afterpay that are sort of like financing options that you can integrate with WooCommerce as well, where those companies will pay you, and then the customer will have the ability to pay back in installments and payments to those companies. So just those that tends to work for sort of higher priced items, so that they can spread the payments out. But just making sure that based on your customers and your products that you have payment options available that make sense for the customers, and then also choosing an option that works for your compliance needs. So um, we don't recommend that you use any kind of system that stores debit or credit card information in your database. So making sure that you go with an option where the card details are handled completely outside of your website, and so you don't have security issues there. And we'll talk about security in a minute, but definitely looking at your compliance needs when choosing a payment gateway is important too. All right. Installing an SSL certificate and forcing HTTPS. So this is a little bit more on the technical side, but it's not too terribly difficult to set up. SSL certificates and HTTPS keeps customers' payment and login details from being intercepted. When you're logging in or making a payment, that information has to go from your customer's browser to your site, and in between, there's a possibility for attacks. And so having an SSL certificate and HTTPS in place will encrypt that data, making it impossible for anyone to do anything with that. Most modern hosting companies provide SSL for free, especially for e-commerce plans. So make sure when you're looking for hosting plans that you're finding one that offers an SSL for free and will help you set that up on the hosting side. As an alternative, there's also let'sencrypt.org, which is kind of a free open source way to add an SSL to your site. That's great. It does expire every, I think, 90 days or so, something like that. So it's not ideal long term, but if you needed to get something up and running quickly, that is definitely a path that you could go. And then use your hosting company's settings or a plugin to force HTTPS. You've probably seen this up in the top bar when you're surfing the web. Some sites have HTTP : whatever, and then there's HTTPS. More and more HTTPS now because of Google has added some search ranking positioning to that. So a lot of the web has started to move over to HTTPS anyways. But HTTPS is the S is for secure. It's more secure, and you get the little lock symbol and all of that. Basically, just add some trust for your customers. They can see that that you've taken security into consideration, that their card details are safe, and also that's important for you as a merchant as well, to make sure that your customers' card data is safe. All right, selecting shipping options for physical goods. So this is only going to apply if you are shipping physical goods and not just digital downloads and that kind of thing. But it's definitely important to consider going into this holiday. A lot of the sales are for physical goods. So what you want to do is integrate a shipping provider, and you can get real-time shipping rates this way as well. What to look for: live rates versus flat fees. So if you integrate with a shipping provider, a lot of them will provide live rates for your customers, so they'll know exactly what the shipping is going to cost. That's going to be based on you adding some information to your products based on the dimensions of the product, the height, width, and length, and also the weight. and giving that information to the shipping carrier, shipping provider will allow them to then provide live rates for your customers, and that way they're always going to be paying exactly what the shipping is going to cost for those items. But you can also decide to go with flat fees, whether it's $10 shipping no matter what, or free shipping no matter what, or free shipping after you spend $100, or all of those incentives that, of course, we see at the holiday time and all year long, different incentives for people to buy. So first, of course, you'll have to figure out what you want to do, whether you want to go with live rates or flat fees, and then integrate with a shipping provider that provides those live rates if that's what you want to do. You also want to look at choosing based on the origin and destination. So there are a few listed here. Of course, they're all going to apply differently based on where you're selling and shipping your products from and where those are being sent to, whether those are going to be sent just domestically within your own country or across the globe. So deciding on a shipping provider there is also going to be based somewhat on the destination and where you're shipping from. One of the tips I included here is to include shipment tracking details. That's something that there are a few different plugins for adding shipment tracking details to WooCommerce. Some of them are bundled in with the shipping carrier plugins. Some or some of the times it's not. But that's, I think, sort of expected these days, that there's some shipment tracking information and people want to know when their products are going to be arriving, whether they're going to be arriving in time. There are also shipping estimates plugins where you can add, this product takes approximately a week to arrive, and that'll be shown to them as well. So including some of the communication stuff there for shipping is super important too. And then I have a stat here that 86% of customers like the ability to choose shipping speeds and options. So having multiple options can sometimes be a good thing as well, allowing customers to decide whether they're willing to pay more to have it shipped faster. And that's where those live rates will come into play as well, because those shipping carriers will be able to go ahead and set those fees at checkout depending on the shipping choices that they make. All right. We've talked about payments. We've talked about shipping. The other kind of pillar of WooCommerce, of e-commerce marketing online, selling online, is taxes, unfortunately. You'll definitely need to make sure at this high volume time of year that you're equipped to handle both the collection of taxes and the submission of taxes for all your sales. Things to look for: tax regions and codes change all the time. I had a colleague once who told me a story that he lived on a street that was in one zip code, and basically the neighbor behind him lived in a different zip code entirely, even though they were in the same city. So you can't necessarily always even go by the same city. Cities overlap different zip codes, and then therefore have different tax rates and all of that. So like I noted here, if possible, it's best to use a plugin or a service. There are a few of them out there. Avalara is one. There's also TaxJar, Jetpack, I think, inside of WooCommerce, or it's a separate plugin, but Jetpack integrates with WooCommerce as well and provides some of the tax stuff. Some services will file the taxes too. I find that to be incredibly helpful. The one that I'm most familiar with is Avalara, and they will actually file the taxes to the different states and all of that, depending on your sales. So that's just one more time-saving feature, one more thing that you don't have to worry about. But of course, check with your accounting and legal teams for more information. I just want to give you the disclaimer here that I'm neither an accountant or a lawyer. So you'll definitely want to check with your own teams to find out exactly the needs for your tax collection and submission. All right, installing a WordPress security plugin. The holiday season has the highest potential for online attacks, especially for e-commerce stores. This is just one of those times a year where the bad guys are out. There's a lot of traffic to e-commerce sites. There are a lot of purchases going on, and then they're on the lookout. They're on the lookout to see what credit card information that they can steal. So now is definitely the time to make sure that you have some security in place. The first thing you want to do is install a security plugin. There are a few really good ones for WordPress. The one that comes to mind immediately is WordFence. You definitely want to have something like that in place. It will help reduce the number of times that like a bot or whatever tries to log into your site to get access, or tries to submit fake orders through your WooCommerce site to try and see if it can scam out credit card details. A lot of these high volume things is what it's built for. It'll also keep track of the files on your server and your database and make sure that there isn't anything strange going on with any of those. So definitely make sure that you have a security plugin in place that will take care of some of that for you. The next thing for you to do is make sure that you set up a firewall through your host. That will help with some of the just high volume bot attacks. It'll help kind of calm that, make sure that that doesn't happen. Those sort of things tend to less so try to steal information and more so try to shut your sites down. Just high traffic attacks, and all of a sudden your site is just a white screen. So definitely make sure that you set up a firewall through your host to keep that from happening. And then, like we mentioned before, install an SSL and enforce HTTPS. These are things that should be coming from your host, and your host will be able to help you set those things up. Enforcing HTTPS you can do either through your host or with a WordPress plugin as well. And thank you, Sandy. It looks like Sandy added some more resources there in the chat. Avalara and WordFriends, and Secure is another really good WordPress security plugin as well. Definitely check that out. All right, installing Google Analytics plugin. So you'll want to add advanced e-commerce features to Google Analytics. Just making sure that you have analytics on your site that's keeping track of your traffic, of course, normal analytics type stuff. But then also there's, I think it's the Google Analytics Pro plugin that allows you to track even more information specifically from your WooCommerce store, including things like average order value, conversion rate, sales by product, and more. You want to just go ahead and make sure that you can get as much data as you can. All that data will help you make decisions about what products are selling really well, what products could be featured. Maybe they're just not getting surfaced well enough. You can find that sort of information out, and just go ahead with all that data. You can fine tune kind of your sales process, making sure that you're showing the products well enough, surfacing them early enough in the process. Where folks are finding them from. Maybe you find that a product sells best from an upsell, from a related product upsell on another product's page, and making sure that you can fine tune that and see where the sales are coming from. Like it says here, analytics are crucial for making better business and strategy decisions, as well as improving customer relationships, right? Knowing when to sell, where the sales are coming from, and all of that helps you make better business decisions. All right, we'll move into more of the email marketing. This is one that we're going to do a deeper dive on in a couple of weeks, but making sure that your email marketing campaigns are planned out now is a good time to start. These are ways for you to provide store updates, discounts, and sale information with current and prospective customers. Email is still 40 times more effective at acquiring new customers than Facebook or Twitter. That's huge. Email, I think, had gotten a bad rap, and then I think in the last couple of years, it's sort of made a resurgence as being the way to get your products, get your store, get your brand out in front of people, just in a really effective way. 40 times more than Facebook and Twitter is a huge number. Thing to do now, make sure your email list is up to date. You probably have a list of customers or prospective customers. Make sure that those are still valid, that folks still are looking to be emailed, that they still want to receive discounts and updates and all of that, and add to it if you have multiple lists that you can merge together, or now's just the time to do the cleanup, right? Make sure that everything is good and in order there with your email lists. Test order confirmation emails and drip campaign emails. That's super important. People are going to be confused if they place an order at your site and they don't get some kind of order confirmation email to let them know. So make sure that that's working. It's as simple as going in and just making a purchase for an inexpensive product or for any product and then just refunding yourself. But make sure that those order confirmation emails are working so that your customers aren't confused. And that they're actually getting those. And then drip campaign emails. If you're not familiar with drip campaign emails, we'll go into some of that in the other one. But essentially, drip campaign emails allow you to sort of, over time, send out emails to specific customers. So, maybe they do something at your site, they looked at a product, you send an email to them the next day saying, hey, we saw that you looked at this product, are you still interested? Then maybe a couple of days after that, hey, here's a discount code. A couple of days after that, if you buy this, we'll throw this other product in. So they're just sort of timed series of emails, and just make sure that those are working right. Because they're timed, they may take a few days or a couple of weeks to actually all deliver. So now's the time before we get to those to just make sure that those timed emails are working the way they're supposed to be working. And then schedule emails in advance. If you know that you're going to send out, 4 or 5 emails in the couple of weeks leading up to that Thanksgiving, that Big 5 weekend that I talked about earlier. If you know you're going to send a few of those out, just go ahead and design them and schedule them now. Don't wait until those 2 weeks are here and you're trying to scramble to put those emails together. Just go ahead and design them, schedule them for the days you want them to be sent out to the lists you want them to be sent out to. And that way, that's one less thing that you have to worry about going into that time. It's going to take care of that on its own. Replenishing and updating your online store inventory. So this is kind of twofold. It's not just your store, but making sure that you've replenished your inventory physically as well. Make sure that you're stocked up on all the things that are your best sellers, things that may have a tendency to run out this time of year. Make sure that you just have plenty of those, and then make sure that that information is accurate online as well. Don't leave money on the table by having inadequate stock or ignoring your store's inventory levels. Why that's useful: 75% of customers are frustrated by a lack of accurate stock levels. The last thing you want to do is order something that you thought that the store had, and then you get an email the next day saying your order was canceled. Sorry, we don't have that item. Or in the reverse case, right, that your store says an item is sold out, it's out of stock, but you have 10 of them sitting there, and then your store isn't going to be able to sell any of them because it's marked as out of stock. So make sure that your stock levels are accurate. I'll skip to the tip here. Use a plugin to bulk update stock. There's it's a bulk stock, WooCommerce bulk stock management plugin that will allow you to go through and update your stock just in a big table like in the screenshot here, rather than going in each individual product. And that's definitely something that you'll want to do to make sure that all your inventory levels are set for people to buy. And also, credible stock numbers can create a sales boosting sense of urgency and scarcity. WooCommerce will show only 2 left, right? And that'll create a sense of urgency for some customers that are maybe on the fence, thinking, maybe I'll keep this in mind and come back tomorrow and purchase it. But if there are only 2 left, maybe they'll go ahead and make the purchase now because they're not sure whether those 2 will still be there tomorrow. So making sure that you have those credible stock numbers, those accurate stock numbers in your site can also help entice customers to go ahead and make that purchase as well. Including additional marketing plugins. So this isn't an all-inclusive list, but I do have a handful of additional marketing plugins that I just wanted to share for WooCommerce. Utilizing plugins will help you convert more sales and save time, and that's always a great thing, especially in this busy time of year. Things to look for are plugins that will upsell or cross-sell your products for you, plugins that enhance the customer experience, plugins to automate site emails, and some plugins to manage inventory, which we kind of went over in the last slide there for a moment. So I just wanted to go through a few here real quick and just show some of the things that you might want to think about for some additional marketing plugins to do some of the work for you. I have cart add-ons and checkout add-ons. It's actually two separate plugins, but they are very similar in what they do. They'll display related products to items in the customer's cart or at checkout. This is kind of the equivalent of you're in the grocery store and you're checking out and you see that candy bar or that magazine at the checkout, and you go ahead and you throw that in your cart because it's interesting, right? In this case, the items that are going to be displayed are going to be more related to the items already in the cart. So that will be helpful. This can be used for a number of different things. Let's say you sell notebooks, and customers might want to add some pens to their order as well, so that they have some pens to gift with the notebook. Things like that. They may not have thought about, oh, well, I think I need to add some pens to this order as well. So having cart add-ons or checkout add-ons plugin surface some of those related needs definitely helps boost sales as well. I think I have a stat here. Yeah, related product recommendations contribute to about 30% of e-commerce sales. So almost a third of all e-commerce sales are these related product recommendations. So it's another one of those places where you don't want to leave money on the table by just not installing a plugin. It's a simple plugin that just shares some of the related products, and that's easy money. You didn't have to do any work for that other than adding the plugin. And this is great for food, fashion, beauty, and other stores cross-selling related items, kind of like the example that I gave. Another one that comes to mind, if you're selling things like digital online courses, sometimes there's a workbook that goes with that, right? So you sell the course, and that's an online thing, but then you want to be able to sell that workbook that goes with it, with the course. So that would be a related item that surfacing a related item that they didn't even know necessarily that they needed to buy, or if they did know, they're going to have to go track it down in your store and try and add it to the cart as well. So this is great for things like that. The next one's Local Pickup Plus. Local Pickup Plus is essentially a plugin that allows you to make a purchase at the site and then pick up the products in store. If you have a brick and mortar store, then this might be a way to go for you. I have a number of stats there. I'm not going to read over them right this moment, but essentially one of the benefits here for Local Pickup Plus is the ability to kind of negate some of the shipping costs. That's great for both stores and for customers, is being able to sort of bypass having to deal with all the shipping and allowing customers to just come pick them up. Some things are just better picked up, in my opinion. Things like computers, electronics and stuff that I don't necessarily trust being shipped in the mail. I prefer to have those things also either be shipped to the store, where they can kind of look over everything and make sure that everything's good before the store gives it to me, or it's just based on inventory in the store, and I can make the purchase online and then just go pick it up from the store. It's great for negating some of the shipping and also timing. If there's something that's going to take a week to be sent, maybe I can pick it up from the store tomorrow. Then I'd rather go pick it up from the store tomorrow because I'll have it sooner. So that's another thing that you might want to consider. This next one is WooCommerce additional variation images. And this falls in that enhanced customer experience category. The example I usually give here is, let's say you sell t-shirts and you have a t-shirt design that has the design on the front and a design on the back, and it comes in 3 different colors, blue, yellow, and red or something. And you can sell those different variations in your WooCommerce store easily, but as far as imagery is concerned, you're only going to be able to show one image for each of those variations. So one, the front and back maybe, but then from there on out, as you switch variations, you'll be able to show just maybe the front of the yellow and the front of the red. So having additional variation images allows you to upload as many additional images for each of those variations as you want. Like it says here, it recreates the experience for customers of having the product variations in hand. You know what you're getting. You're not going to be surprised when you get shipped the yellow one and the back design is a different color. Maybe it needed to be a darker color so it would show on the yellow versus being a lighter color showing on the blue. You don't want to get hit with those surprises. You want to know exactly what it is you're ordering. So having having those additional variation images just enhances the customer experience because you know what you're going to get. What is that? 75% of customers rely on product photos, and 22% of returns occur because the product looks different than it did online. And returns gets into a whole different thing. It costs you money, it costs the customers money and time, and you can just negate that by adding a few additional images, and then the customer knows exactly what it is that they're purchasing. Also along the same lines is WooCommerce Product Reviews Pro. This allows you to add professional level reviews like you see at some of the larger e-commerce stores, including the ability to upload photos and videos, and for customers to be able to filter on those. What this does to me, in addition to kind of enhancing the customer experience, is it provides that social proof that customers can see what others have thought, and see photos and videos of how the products actually look when they get there. And assuming that you're selling quality products, right, then the pictures are all going to be great, glowing reviews of your products as well. So it creates that social proof, which helps with the purchasing. 70% of customers look at reviews before purchasing. I know I'm definitely in that 70%. 63% are more likely to purchase if site has product ratings and reviews. So people want to know what they're getting. They want to know what the product's going to look like, how it's going to, how they're going to feel about it. And they're going to look to other people. This is the most reliable source. Of course, you're going to sell your products as being the latest and greatest. But if your customers are also saying that it's the latest and greatest, then that really nails it home. Really hits it home for them. So adding something like Product Reviews Pro definitely helps with the sales process as well. And I think the last one here is Automate Woo. Automate Woo we'll probably talk about more in the later in the series when we talk about email marketing. But I just wanted to mention it here in case anybody wanted to set it up and start looking at it. Automate Woo allows you to send automated emails to customers, including abandoned cart emails, win-back emails, review requests, and a lot more. Automations are open and clicked 3 times more often than broadcasts being like a email newsletter, and generate more than 20 times the revenue. And that is because these automations are tailored specifically to the customer, right? Like just taking abandoned cart emails, for example. The customer is going to get an email that's specifically for them saying, hey, you left this product in the cart. Are you sure? Did you mean to leave it in the cart? Did you want to buy it? Can also include incentives like discounts or free shipping or whatever in this. If you click here to get 10% off of this product now. But those emails are geared specifically for that customer. So they're going to be far more effective than just a broadcast email that sends a handful of products to everyone. Like I said, we'll talk about those more in upcoming webinars, but I just wanted to note it here in case people wanted to take a look. All right, and then the last sort of part of the checklist here is installing a WordPress caching plugin. In addition to optimized hosting and a CDN, a caching plugin further boosts performance, which has been proven to lead to more sales. There's a study done a while back that was like for every second that your site loads faster, it's some percentage higher of conversions and sales. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do remember faster site equals more sales, and that's really the bottom line there. So you'll want to definitely install a caching plugin that will help your site just be faster in addition to these other things. There are plugins that are optimized for WooCommerce specifically, or have features that are specific to WooCommerce. So definitely look for a plugin that works with WooCommerce. Make sure you also look at one that works when you're logged in and logged out. The tip here is to test checkout after installation, but make sure that you log all the way out of your site. Make sure that you're visiting the site the same way that any of your customers would, and that way, when you walk through the whole process and make sure everything still works the way it's supposed to work with your caching plugin, that you're viewing it the way that your customers are seeing it, and not a logged in version. A lot of times caching plugins will disable some of their features for logged in users, just because sometimes it gets in the way of developing the site. So make sure that you log all the way out of your site and walk through the whole process as if you were one of your customers, just to make sure that the whole thing is still working And that should, like I said, the caching plugin should boost performance in addition to having an optimized host and a CDN and all of those other things, because the fastest site will convert the most sales. So with that, I'll just do a quick checklist recap. We talked about selecting a hosting package that is optimized for WooCommerce, installing WooCommerce and configuring store details, installing a WooCommerce compatible theme and activate it, installing a payment method to accept payments, installing an SSL certificate, and forcing HTTPS for security reasons. Make sure shipping options are available and configured for domestic and for international if that's where you're selling to. Preparing a sales tax handling process and plugin, and letting a service do that if at all possible, because that's going to be the easiest for you. Installing a security plugin, installing Google Analytics, and specifically Google Analytics Pro as well to make sure that you're capturing all that e-commerce data. Ensure that your marketing campaign emails are planned, plan them ahead of time and test them, make sure that they're working. Replenish and update online store inventory. Now's the time for that too. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for you to get new inventory to your warehouse, to your store, to your home. Make sure that you're doing that now while you have the time. Adding other marketing plugins, which I listed a few of there, and setting up a caching plugin. So that's the checklist. I'll make sure that this checklist is available probably on the events page where you registered for this event, but also make sure that you come back and check out some of the several next week's events as well, where we talk about some of these more in depth. And that is all I have for now. We'll take some sip of water. That's a lot of talking. I'm not feeling 100%, but I'm making it.
Well, thank you so much. That was a lot of information. Right now, we have 3 questions already in the Q&A section. So I'll let you get a sip of water, and then we'll run through those and see how much time we have left. The first one is to integrate a shipping provider and be able to pull live rates. Do you install a particular plugin for that shipping provider? How does that work?
Yeah, so the answer is both yes and no. There are some shipping providers that have their own individual plugins that you would install, based on which plugins they are, especially if they're some of the more international shipping providers. I think they're going to have their own. I do believe that there's WooCommerce services, which is sort of a wrapped together way to, I believe, for at least USPS and UPS, at least those two, be able to have those kind of bundled together. And maybe one other one, maybe DHL. They're like all US ones though. So if you're in the US looking to ship to just the US domestically, then I think the WooCommerce services plugin handles a few of them. Otherwise, you might have to do them separately.
Awesome. Thank you. Richard would like to know, could you expand on setting up a firewall through your host? Is the security tools plugin firewall not efficient enough?
That is a good question and not particularly in my wheelhouse. We do have a security webinar coming up. I don't know if it's next week or the week after that, but someone who definitely knows more about firewalls and security will be able to answer that question better than I would. So I will let them do that.
So our security will be October 13th. So I would highly recommend that you attend that one. Josh Hammer will be our guest on that show, and he is a security expert. So he'll be able to speak to that more in depth for sure. And then the last question I have, and if anybody else has any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section, but it currently is, can you share any tips on some proven strategies to build an email list?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go into more email marketing stuff in one of the later webinars, but proven strategies to build an email list, I think a lot of that is going to depend on providing valuable content over time. A lot of what I see is people will sign up for your content, for your newsletters and stuff based on just sharing valuable content with people, related to your products and that kind of thing. You can ask them if they're interested. If they come to your site, they're looking at certain products, and you can, have a little block or whatever that says, hey, if you're interested, you like our products, then sign up for our mailing list and that kind of thing. The more organic, the better. I know that folks have also gone out and purchased email lists. I know that that's a strategy. I know there are also email sending companies that will not allow you to import a purchase list. So they're also not qualified, like it's not qualified email addresses. So there's going to be a lot of bounces, which is going to flag your account for spamming and all of that. So there are different ways. My advice there would mostly just be to do as much of that organically as you can, just by providing valuable content and offering discounts and updates and all of that.
There's even ways to run Facebook marketing campaigns, paid campaigns, where the entire goal of that campaign is for someone to sign up for your email list. So there's lots of different ways. Email marketing is such a wide swath when it comes to what you can do. I think the biggest thing is just make sure you're following your local laws and your national laws, because there's just so many that revolve around email, and here in the US, like canned spam and stuff like that. So I think that's the key. But October 20th, Marcus will be back and be going over all sorts of fun email marketing strategies as well.
Yeah, I'll be hosting that one and bringing in an expert who knows what they're talking about to give better answers about email marketing.
I love it. I love it. Well, I wanted to personally thank you for taking your time today to be here with us, and sharing all of this, in really an intro into a deeper dive for all of October. Don't miss all of October. Every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern, we will be back here on this platform, events.godaddy.com. And from there, hopefully, we'll be able to help you get your site or your client sites ready for the upcoming holidays. I can't believe September is pretty much over, and that we're talking about holidays. It is so great. I need the weather to change now.
Yes.
So, well, thank you so much. I will see everyone next week. Have an awesome rest of your week.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sandy.